Alright, let's dive even deeper into this legendary debate. Jimmy Page and Tony Iommi, two of the most iconic figures in the world of rock and heavy metal. The debate over who is the better guitarist has raged for decades, and it's a discussion that divides fans, critics, and musicians alike. They've both played pivotal roles in the development of their respective genres, and their influence is undeniable. But here's the thing, despite their differences, they share a number of similarities that make this debate even more fascinating. We're going to take a closer look at what made them who they are, their unique approaches to the guitar, and why both of them have cemented their place in music history. Let's start with Jimmy Page, one of the founding members of Led Zeppelin. Jimmy didn't just play the guitar, he transformed it. In the 1960s, when Page joined the Yardbirds, he was already a well-established session guitarist. But it was his work with Led Zeppelin that truly made him a household name. Page was a master of sound. He wasn't interested in simply playing fast or clean notes, he was about creating atmospheres, crafting soundscapes that defined the rock genre for generations to come. One of the most impressive things about Page's playing was his ability to experiment with tones and textures. He didn't just stick to traditional rock guitar styles, he was always exploring new ideas. From feedback to alternative tunings to sophisticated arrangements, Page's playing was always about pushing the boundaries of what was possible on the guitar. And this creativity wasn't just confined to his solos. In songs like Whole Lotta Love and Heartbreaker, Page crafted memorable riffs that blended blues, folk, and rock, creating a sound that was uniquely his own. His guitar became an instrument of emotion. Every note was deliberately chosen to evoke a feeling, whether it was the intensity of Stairway to Heaven or the raw power of Immigrant Song. But it wasn't just his playing that made Page so influential. He was also an incredibly skilled producer. In fact, one of the most interesting aspects of Led Zeppelin's sound was Page's role behind the scenes. From the beginning, he was deeply involved in every aspect of the band's sound. Page wasn't just the guitarist, he was the one shaping the entire musical vision of the band. Whether it was his influence on the recording process or his work on song arrangements, Page had a hand in every major decision. And this visionary approach to producing is a big part of what made Led Zeppelin the groundbreaking band it was. While Page was pushing the boundaries of rock music, on the other side of the world, Tony Iommi was creating an entirely new sound, a sound that would go on to define heavy metal. Iommi, the legendary guitarist of Black Sabbath, didn't just play guitar. He crafted the very foundation of what we now call metal. Now, when we talk about metal, we often think of loud, fast, and heavy riffs. But it wasn't always that way. Before Tony, metal didn't quite exist as we know it. Sure, there were hard rock bands, but no one had dared to go as heavy and as dark as Black Sabbath. Tony Iommi's influence on metal cannot be overstated. And let's not forget, it all started with a tragic accident. In 1965, Tony suffered a terrible accident while working in a factory, and he lost the tips of his fingers on his right hand. That could have been the end of his career, but instead, Tony found a way to turn this setback into the birth of a new sound. He developed his own method of playing with his thumb, using a unique finger technique that allowed him to still play complex, powerful riffs. And let's be honest, thankfully he did, because the sound he developed went on to become the cornerstone of heavy metal. One of the most revolutionary aspects of Iommi's playing is his use of downtuning. While other guitarists at the time were sticking to standard tunings, Tony decided to experiment with lowering his guitar's tuning, creating a sound that was thicker, heavier, and much darker than anything rock fans had ever heard. This downtuning became the signature sound of Black Sabbath. It gave their music a guttural and brooding quality that wasn't just heavy, it was menacing. It wasn't about speed or precision, it was about making the guitar feel heavy, dark, and ominous. Tony's riffs weren't just loud, they were deep, sludgy, and powerful. This was the sound of Black Sabbath. But what made Tony's playing truly stand out wasn't just his heavy riffs, it was his ability to create atmosphere. Sure, he could play loud and hard, but he also knew when to hold back. He understood that sometimes, less is more. Unlike other guitarists who were focused on speed and technical prowess, Tony was more about feel and vibe. His playing was all about creating the mood of the song. Whether it was the eerie, foreboding tone of Iron Man or the haunting riffs of Paranoid, Tony knew exactly when to let the guitar breathe, when to step back and let the riff speak for itself. Tony's playing also had a certain minimalism to it. Where many guitarists might have added extra licks or flashy solos, Tony kept things simple. He focused on creating a tight, relentless riff that could carry an entire song. There was no need for a bunch of technical flourishes. He knew that the riff was the most important element in Black Sabbath's music. And this minimalist approach is one of the reasons Black Sabbath songs are so powerful. Tony's riffs are like sonic boulders, heavy, unyielding, and always at the forefront of the music. So, we've got Jimmy Page, the innovative, melodic genius, pushing rock into new territories. Then we've got Tony Iommi, the heavy and brooding master, creating the foundations of heavy metal. But what connects them, what makes this debate so intriguing, is the tone. It's not just about how fast you play or how complicated your solos are. It's about the tone, that unmistakable sound that defines your music. Both Page and Iommi understood the power of tone. They knew that the magic was in how the guitar sounded, how it made you feel. Page wasn't just looking for precision. He was creating a world with every note he played. Every riff was deliberate, meant to evoke a certain feeling or emotion. It wasn't about the notes themselves, it was about the space between the notes, the tension and release that made his playing so powerful. Whether it was the haunting opening of Stairway to Heaven or the raw power of Whole Lotta Love, Page's playing had a sense of drama that was unmatched. Similarly, Iommi wasn't just looking for loudness or heaviness. He was looking for atmosphere. His riffs weren't just fast, they were intense, gritty, and dark. Every note was meant to make you feel like you were entering a different world, a world of doom and chaos. And that's why his influence on metal is so profound. If you listen to a metal band today, chances are, you can hear the influence of Tony Iommi in their music. His heavy, sludgy riffs laid the foundation for every metal band that came after him. But, beyond the sound, we're also talking about influence. Jimmy Page wasn't just a guitarist, he was a force in rock music. His playing shaped the sound of Led Zeppelin, which in turn shaped the entire rock genre. You can hear his influence in every classic rock band that followed, from the Rolling Stones to AC/DC to Nirvana. Page was the guitarist that pushed rock in new directions, blending blues, folk, and psychedelia with the raw power of rock. And the influence of his playing can still be heard today in bands that are pushing the boundaries of rock music. On the other side, Tony Iommi didn't just influence metal, he created it. His riffs became the blueprint for an entire genre. You can hear his influence in every heavy metal band, from the early days of Metallica to the sludgy sound of Black Label Society. If you're a fan of metal, you owe a huge debt to Tony Iommi's riffs. Without him, metal wouldn't have the same weight, the same power, or the same atmosphere. So, where does this debate leave us? Well, the truth is, it's impossible to pick a winner. Jimmy Page and Tony Iommi both changed music in their own ways. They were both masters of their craft, but they approached the guitar in completely different ways. Jimmy Page was the melodic innovator, pushing rock into new directions with his groundbreaking use of alternate tunings and complex solos. Tony Iommi was the heavy architect of metal, creating riffs that were dark, powerful, and unrelenting. Each of them has had a massive influence on music, and both have earned their place in the pantheon of guitar legends. So, who do you think is the better guitarist? Is it Jimmy Page, with his innovative approach to rock? Or is it Tony Iommi, the heavy metal pioneer? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to know who you think deserves the crown of the best guitarist. And while you're here, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this deep dive into these two guitar legends. Don't forget to subscribe, and check out our next video where we explore another iconic guitarist, Eddie Van Halen. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and keep on rocking.